Oh, there you are, Odo. What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Sholmes, Gina. You sure about what you said in there? That the boss, you know, actually died the day before. It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes, I was shocked by the revelation too. As was I, possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Sholmes. But I was more shocked than all of you put together. This is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes, it's strange there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps a deliberate omission. Well, presumably, that weird fucking plague doctor is the one doing it now, and she didn't seem super trustworthy for some reason. Oh dear, if it was deliberate, it puts me in mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Scythe. I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Von Zykes discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, so perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it, you had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No, no, no! Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth-honed interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. So you got scammed. And that scent masked the underlying scent of deception, I suppose. The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Suze, and it was me what took 'em in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen. Indeed. Yours truly. So it's going to be that pair. I wish it wasn't, but I knew it would be. Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuth-hound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. Don't tar him with the same brush as you, Sholmes. Yes, well, then there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Von Zykes for some reason. The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Gregson, Van Zykes, and Cosima. I feel as though he knew we'd arrive at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. Yeah, fucking 5D chess master. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. The recess will be over shortly. Yes, you're right. Cosima was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial, and he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. We haven't even figured out how this connects to Strongheart yet, but look, if Strongheart isn't a murderer, I'm gonna eat my fucking table, okay? Like, he has to be. He's got Damon Gant vibes written all over him. Are you ready then, Mr. Sato? Yes. In the name of Her Majesty, we start now. Resume closed hearing. Van Zykes murder. Now then, Asogi. Yeah, my lord. Have you summoned the witnesses? Yes, the two members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the two men in. These two men are currently held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but please state your names for the court. I am Fabian de Rousseau, a descendant of the great Rousseau family from Nice in France. And my name is Peppino De Rossi. Oh god, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, dude. I am the third son of the great Familia De Rossi. This is... What am I doing? You don't get a voice. I'm the third son of the great Familia De Rossi, the landowners from Nepali? What? I didn't really read it, to be honest. The two men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility.
Those who graduate from Temsek are the future leaders of Europe. But, do you have any idea how boring it was to be born noble blood? Alos, I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little grey cells of my brain. That is all I'm trying to do.
So, that's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out?
Oui, you could say that.
Not bad, eh? He has the grand ideals, but the petty plans. The strange combination is a charm of the hilarious brothers. See, Capo?
Listen to me, Peppino. I have two things to say to you.
Che? Are you trying to tell me of your grandy anecdotes?
Firstly, I want to stop you to stop calling me this Capo. And secondly, we are not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business.
Che bello. There it is, the Capo's trump card. The furrowed brow. It is deep, Capo, the furrow and the meaning of your words. The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true?
Oui, c'est cas.
And what exactly was the nature of this deception?
Alors, I will explain it.
No, Capo. Leave it to me. As you see, we both have the vivid red hair, no. At school, we were teased for this without pity. The Capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse, crying like Trevi Fountain. We, those dogs, one day the world will respect us redheads. Every night he would bury his head in his
Yes, bien, Peppino, enough. I will explain the rest. The first step was the newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we listed the same notice in every paper in London.
Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe.
Oui,
C'est cas.
I'm honored that you have seen it.
It states that the only condition for joining the League is having flame-colored hair, and that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the League, you could receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in London, and from each person present, this pair took an application fee of 5 shillings. Ooh, damn. This barely sounds illegal so far.
And with the money, to France, it was a most elegant, non?
No, it was most dishonorable. I mean, definitely true. Still a scam, though to be honest, seems like one you'd probably get away with. But not that I'm gonna try it. But to be frank, I'm stunned anyone was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk like a coaster's orange barrow. And the day on which all these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these two men spoke face-to-face with every single person present that day.
Oui, I have seen more red-headed people in one day than I will see in the rest of my life.
See. And now, every time I see the Capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach.
Anyway, why have we been summoned here today?
Sorry?
The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told.
Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good. So, Mr. DeRossi and Mr. DeRossi, you will now give your formal testimony on the subject of the gentleman.
Of course, we are always ready to help with the law. Just as long as we're not the one being investigated. It's all above board. We were definitely going to hire someone. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assembled in the park on Lime Street.
But I don't recall the man in this photograph. Capo?
None. I do not remember him. Obviously, he is dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park.
Allura, this victim is nothing to do with us.
You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault that we got caught in the first place.
I'm gonna honestly go all the way to the end and find out what he did. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? I mean, you spoke to 1,000 people. I wouldn't be confident saying that.
Oui, I am quite certain we did not interview this man.
I wouldn't be able to answer that. I'd be like, I don't know, dude. I saw 1,000 people. When I was working at Target, there was a guy who was very obviously committing crimes. Without going into details, it was pretty obvious. And when I spoke to the security about it, they asked me to write down like a description of the man, and I could remember fucking nothing about him, even though I had seen him like an hour ago. I'm definitely not going to remember one dude out of 1,000 people I saw that day. There's no way. If I can't do it for a dude an hour earlier. Nobody looking like this came to the park. This I can promise. It must be noted that you have been arrested for a grand deception. Accordingly, this court has little confidence in your assurances. Uffa, with this attitude, we get nowhere, huh? He's really a sulkin now. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover. Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event. Obviously, that's the only logical explanation. You're right, Peppino.
That is ridiculous.
There's no question Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, which means it's quite possible that when he was killed. Very well, the defense will proceed. Yes, my lord. Alright, let's get pressing. Wait, I wanted to do the last one. Whatever, it's fine. 1,000 people? That's a very big crowd.
It was quite a spectacle. Redheads had come from all over the capital.
See, the capo here. He has the magnetismo animal, yes? And nobody could attract so many people. If I could be born again, I would be the capo.
All the people wanted was the money, Peppino. The £4 per week.
Are you suggesting you spoke personally with all 1,000 applicants?
Oui, that we did, because every one of them paid us 5 shillings.
We take their names and we take their money, and then we take their addresses as well. Then I tell them we take some days to let them know, by a post, e finito, maybe 2 minuti a person. We start early in the morning and we stop late in the night. So you earned 5,000 shillings in one day. Who would have thought that there were 1,000 such gullible redheads in London to start with? One of whom was a detective, yeah? Wait, do you think... No, don't worry about it. I struck upon something there. They recognized Sholmes, right? Do you think that's because they'd already met Gregson by that point? So they were more ready to see Sholmes because they had already encountered the detective earlier? I don't recall the man in this photograph, Kappa? He doesn't look at all familiar. No, I don't think so. And this is a wig, eh? He was trying to trick us. Unconscionable. Who could do such a thing? I do not like the people who are trying to trick the other people, says the con artist. If between them they interviewed 1,000 people with red hair, it would be unreasonable to expect them to remember every face. No, no, senor. I may be small, but my memory is very large. I never forget a thing. In my opinion, I do not think this man was in the park. But he's not going to give the court a definite, it seems. Hey, Capo, you didn't see a man like this, huh?
Hold it!
But according to what you said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day.
Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day.
Surely then you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain that this particular man wasn't present? Normally the red hair is very distinctive, eh? But not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around. Then it's just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could give us, maybe we could recall.
That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. We are sure of the fact, huh?
Are you literally coaching him right in front of my eyes?
If there was a man with a red hairpiece, his mustache did not match the color, then I do not think I would have forgotten him.
Kazuma said these two men had only been shown the photograph and they had been told nothing else. But what if none of them... I fed the other detail about the victim. For example... his profession, right? I could certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you in this situation. But what if I told you the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective?
The man in the photograph? A detective?
Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito.
Sorry, but this changes nothing.
Yeah, you have to remember at least one detective.
Excuse me.
Something to add, Mr. De Rossi? Che, see? I'm always adding something. Parmesan, olive oil, pepper. What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark? Eh? What did he just say about the detective? Yes, that.
Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You have said enough already.
But why, Capo? What's the problem? There was a man who said, I'm an inspector from Scotland Yard. We got him. What? Good Lord! Order, order. Explain this volte-face in your testimony, witness. It's simple. A man who was at the park said to...
There was no such man.
My day? My day? What are you saying, Capo? Have you forgotten?
I have forgotten nothing. Nobody like this came to the park.
Basta, Capo, basta. You beat me in many things, but not two, the memory and the meals. You needed a better partner in crime. This guy is not cut out for it. Like I said, when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is a pasta.
But you are inferior to me in every other way.
Jesus Christ.
Know your place, trash. Ugh. Top blood, the damage is done.
Indeed it is, sir.
Oui, there was a man who came to the park and said he was an inspector from Scotland Yard. However, he looked nothing like the man in the photograph. It was someone else.
How can you be so sure?
Because, to start with, his face was completely different.
See, it's true, it's true. The man who came was a younger. His face was a clean-shaven, his eyes were sadder, his chin was thinner. No resemblance whatsoever, then.
Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I saw the obvious precaution and said to him, "If you are really a detective, show us the proof."
See, the capo here, he doesn't take out nonsense, eh?
But he was well prepared. He said he had identification.
Identification? You mean official police inspector's identification? This is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord. Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer his identification. It's quite out of the question. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity?
Clearly the papers were fake.
Certo, Capo, you are a genius. As we say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, eh? And what happened after he announced that he was a detective?
He became very annoying. He said, "You are under investigation." So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park.
It was fantastico, and look, here's the identification. So you stole it from the man. He had it coming. He made us very scared. He was, not who he said he was. Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector. However, I believe it would be prudent for these identifications to be taken as evidence. But I like them. Alright, come on, show me. Show me the evidence. Slide this boy open. No, please slide this boy open. Well, I suppose we should look to see what the identification looks like. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just something plucked out of the air. It's Tobias Gregson. Wait, what? This Scotland Yard insignia looks genuine to me. But how? And the department identification number details are all correct as well. Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say... I know it seems incredible, but yes. I think this is a genuine identification book. But that's unbelievable. This is the real thing after all? So what does this mean exactly? There really is no reason for Gregson to have shown them this. So why did he? Maybe it wasn't Gregson? Maybe it was somebody just disguised. Well, he also said he looked nothing like Gregson, though, didn't he? So yeah. Has to have been somebody else with Gregson's identification papers. Alright, press right here. What do you mean by that? Cavallo, you promised not to say, eh, Capo?
After we had taken all the money that day, we should have left the country. That was my plan. I left the purchasing of the tickets for the ferry to Dunkirk to my companion. But he bought them for the wrong day.
Oops. See, but it's an easy mistake to make. The 1st, the 31st.
Boof! I have no sympathy for you. We were an all day late for the boat because of your stupidity. And it's only because of this that the so-called great detective caught us.
Capo, you know what I think? This is the work of God. It's a holy punishment, eh?
Peppino, for the last time. This is not only punishment. This is only your fault.
Ah.
Don't blame God for your unholy mistakes. You are making me sick with the anger.
Maybe I make a mistake, but when it is time to eat the pasta, no one is faster. Okay. Yeah. We gotta get him. We gotta get him. I didn't press on one of the statements, though. Do I just show the identification paperwork on that last bit there? I'm gonna press here first regardless. I'm really paranoid about presenting evidence now after the fucking firework fiasco, let me tell you. But we have only your word for that. See, but what else can we do, huh? True. Oofa, we are not having much of fun these days. First we get arrested, we are shown the horrible picture of a dead man, and now you question every single thing we say. We are the victims here. Hey, Capo? No, you were caught carrying out a plot to swindle hundreds of innocent people. You had to bring that up, eh? It's not fair. Hey, Capo? Alright, back it up. So we're gonna present it here, right?
Objection.
Yeah. I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade? Why Miss Lestrade? What is your intention, counsel? Is this really a fake or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves. Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen.
That is the boss's, no question about it.
It can't be. As I suspected. The undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on day in question was the real Inspector Gregson carrying out an incognito investigation.
The laws.
Order.
But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, he was always on at me about it. If you lose something, report it at once.
Yeah, so he either was there, or he was already dead. Could it be, then, that the inspector was physically unable to report it? Physically,
What you were saying?
unable to? You're not suggesting. Yes. It's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen.
No.
Order. The defense posits that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that? I know a nothing. I done a nothing.
Pull yourself together, Peppino. Mon Dieu, you have to behave a little more like a master criminal than that.
Now I wish I had returned to Italia.
Stop crying, Peppino, please. Otherwise, Lummy, stop your whining and start talking.
Well, whoops. Oh, no, I done a nothing. But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. You will dry your eyes and testify again about these identification papers and the precise circumstances with which you came by them. For crying out loud.
The truth is, we took him prisoner.
You did what? You did fucking what?
We took him prisoner and kept him for the night at our secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case.
We took the man's identification papers from him and shut him in the room next to ours.
There might have been a little tussle, but we did we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go.
He spent the night in a nice room. It was nothing like a prison, really. This is outrageous. You imprisoned the man? But, no, see, no. It was not like prison. He was very comfortable and calm and happy. We took him to the farm. He was thinking of the rabbits. Eh, Capo?
It was never part of my plan, I swear it.
Oof, so you think it was my fault, eh? Just because I got the date of the ferry wrong by one little day?
I do not think it was your fault, Pepe. No, I know it.
No, por favor, Capo. It's not fair. You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back at the prison.
Ugh, I don't believe this. How could he have been a real detective?
Counsel, proceed with the examination. So on the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout. Holy fucking shit, dude. Do you realize what you're saying?
You have to believe me, I never intended for that to happen. And I'm sure the detective did not intend it either.
Probably not. Do you think?
But there was nothing else I could do.
See, nothing else. This was the first crime for the Capo. He was at the end of his wits.
I have told you before, Peppino. That is not the way to describe a criminal mastermind.
What about the hideout of yours?
An old empty house behind the park on Lime Street.
We rented the place for 2 days. It was an inspired idea by the Capo here. An impulsive idea, I would say. No, not impulsive. Inspired, eh, Capo?
What am I supposed to say to that, Peppino?
And it was in the house described that you can find Gregson, was it?
Ugh, oui. But you have to remember, I was under the impression that he was a pretender, not a real inspector.
Look, imprisonment is imprisonment. There's not really sliding around that. That doesn't quite add up, though, if you didn't think the man was a real inspector. There would have been no reason to take him prisoner, would there?
None. You are right, but we couldn't be certain. So obviously we decided to commit a worse crime than the one we had previously committed, because you may as well double down, you know?
Hold it!
Too scared? Why?
Because why had he come to the park? We didn't know. There was a chance he had seen through my plan.
And if that wasn't the case, he would go straight to the police station to blow the whistle. Even if he was just feigning to be an inspector, it was up to no good, without a doubt. I think most people would agree that it's you two who are up to no good. Well, see, you may be right, eh, Capo? I'm going to stop doing that voice, my throat hurts. The point is, we were not able to escape from England immediately. That is why we had no choice but to take the man prisoner. What I don't understand is why the inspector felt the need to show you his identification. See, I ask myself the same question.
We were writing down the names and addresses of all the people who took the 5 shillings from that day. I have forgotten what name he said, but the address, it startled me.
See, address, Scotland Yard Homicide Division. That's what he wrote for his address? What?
He probably didn't like your face, Peppino. Anyway, I was not rude, I just politely asked him why he said it. And that was when he started to say he was an inspector. Not long afterwards, he took out his identification.
What was Inspector Gregson playing at? Tell the court what happened next. You took him back to your hideout, you say. See, we did it. Whew. That being this identification book here, correct? See, that's the one. What made you believe that it was a forgery? I've never seen a real one, of course. But he was so suspicious, this man. Allora, I was a-thinking, it must be falso, eh, Capo?
Oui. It was just as Peppino has said. We were convinced it was not genuine.
And so together, the hilarious brothers took the man to captive.
All we did was shove him inside a locked room. Then we made the preparations to transport all of the money.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
There might have been a tussle.
What do you mean by a little tussle?
Both, it was nothing, just a minor incident.
The falso inspector, he was a real piece of work. Eh, Capo? What happened? Uffa, it was a disaster. We gave him a nicer room, and what does he do? In the middle of the night, he tries to escape through the ventilator. Can you blame him?
We chased him, bien sûr.
Bien sûr. And we caught him again. Can you blame us? Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you?
What? Who do you think we are? Of course not.
I simply caught him again. What you thinking about?
Excuse me.
Mr. De Rossi, is something wrong?
Eh? Me?
Something Mr. De Rossi said seemed to make you, well, it seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that? Cavallo, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak it from personal experience, Personal experience?
That is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more.
The truth is, the night before we put the Red-Headed League plan into action, I was scared. It was not to fire to the capo, but I tried to run away. It's a shame you didn't manage it. But the capo here, he came after me like a turbine, the turbine, huh? And he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have a few bruises to prove it, eh, Capo? Bruises, you say? Oh, there's no bruises on Gregson, is there? Oh, you wanna see? You wanna see my fantastico bruises?
That's enough now, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you.
What to do? I show you or I don't? I show you or I don't? You do. Now. Allora, if everybody wants to see, then I do it. That's the same mark that was around one of the peddlers' necks, right? No. Was it the peddler? Was it the peddler? Someone had that. That red ring around your neck, you got that when you were dragged back to the house? See, the capo, sometimes he's very rough.
Like I said, that's enough. Peppino's neck is nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word.
Yes. What is your opinion? Yeah, it matters. Mr. De Rossi, I'm going to have to ask you to amend your testimony with details. Hey, Capo, you see? Everyone is interested in what I say.
Ugh.
Amend your testimony. A collar on him and dragged him back. Oh. We don't have a picture of anybody with a red ring on their neck, do we? Well, Gregson doesn't have one. No, we don't have a picture of anybody. Who had the red ring on his neck? It was one of the other witnesses, right?
Hold it!
Are you saying that red mark was caused by... See, a big collar from the leather. Do you think I just present the photograph of the dead body on that statement? Probably. A leather collar. Is this true, Mr. De Rossi?
What? We had a St. Bernard at home when I was younger. It is a souvenir from that time. It is a very strong chain.
A strong chain. And you put that around your friend's neck?
I'm sorry, I was so angry at that he was leaving me alone.
You did not have to tie the chain to the leg of the bed, though, eh? I would not have tried to run away again. You didn't do that to Gregson as well, did you? Treated the people are equal is the capo here's motto, eh? It's starting to sound a lot more like prison all of a sudden. The capo is a tough, but the capo is a rough.
Ugh, I shouldn't have done it.
So, the following morning when you released Gregson, he had a red ring around his neck, just like me.
Peppino, Silvos
plate.
Leave it now.
Now you know, the capo here. It's gotta be just present the picture of, Gregson, right? Which is, because I mean, no visible red ring. I'm so fucking paranoid to present any fucking evidence.
Objection.
Okay. So the day before the body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito.
No, it was not like that. It was hardly a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was only.
Yeah. However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains. What inconsistency? I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim. You will see that there is no red ring visible around his neck.
But that would make no mistake.
It wasn't me who took the collar off the man in the morning, and I saw the red bruises on the neck, just like I have. Given the mark is clearly visible on this witness's neck, we'd expect to see bruising on the victim, who was put in the collar more recently than DeRossi. Indeed, that is most peculiar. But what we tell you, We say this from the beginning many times.
Oui, Peppino is right. The man in the photograph is a different person to the man we held captive.
Order. It would appear then that on the day before the incident, the man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Gregson at all. If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification? This is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item. The prosecution made that assertion itself. Ah, fuck, you got me. And we also know the inspector had made a note about the Red-Headed League in his diary, which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely. The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two gentlemen encountered, the fact no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation. But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of the real Inspector's identification? Does the defense have some plausible explanation? The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes in the court record, because there are facts, and the facts cannot lie. No, facts can't lie, even when they point to something so incredible it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up at the Red-Headed League enrollment is revealed by information in the court record. Good gracious! Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo. So why don't you help us all see whatever truth it is you've apparently seen? What exactly was this... Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Mr. DeRossi and Mr. DeRossi? I mean, it's an imposter, isn't it? And it's the other guy that had the ring on his neck, now that I remember who it was. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to one thing. Since no bruising can be seen, the person that these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up to now has been a waste of time. Shut the fuck up. On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was this man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Gregson's identification? See, that's alright, we tell the same story. Whoever the man was, the capo dragged him from a pillar to post with the dog collar.
Mon Dieu, Peppino, I was not as harsh as you say.
So who was that falso inspector? Clearly the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man these two imprisoned. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate. Who? Fuck, who had it on his neck? You, I can see it right there.
Take that!
Goodness me, isn't that one of the witnesses who was in the stand in this very courtroom earlier today? A nameless man whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passers-by. What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses, is this the man or not?
What has happened to his lip?
Ah. See, this man is not real for the Red-Headed League. He's looking for the Twisted Lip League. Perhaps rather than making such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. It seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noticed something around the man's neck. A red ring. Eh? What? The defense demands that Mr. Gossip be brought back to the stand. Order, order. Bailiff, bring the aforementioned witness back. Immediately. We're on our way now, lads. Well, I never. An undeniable ring of bruising. And identical to that of the witness beside him.
Now what's going on here, right? I've always had this, mate. It's a birthmark, innit?
A birthmark, you say? I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you?
Oh, something about an inspector again. But I'm telling you, you've got it all wrong as usual.
You're denying all knowledge of it.
Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense?
Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Frenso Street, won't you? Now, we're going to need you to testify again. And you, Mr. DeRossi and Mr. DeRossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you?
Do we have any choice?
We are in a bigger trouble, eh, Capo? That's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony.
The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man.
Is right, see? You would think we would forget these grand lips, eh?
I'll never leave Frenso Street, alright? I've got no interest in the Red-Headed League. I'm all alone in the world, me. I'm no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off with the scars with a face like this?
Maybe he deliberately ate a bee as a disguise after he did it. It would appear we have the wrong man.
What have I been telling you, huh? There was no need for this pointless testimony.
Ugh. That's right, I'm just a simple impeller, remember? Frenso Street's all I know. How could I come by a police inspector's identification book, eh?
Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... a brief cross-examine, I think, counsel. Very brief. I stand steadfast by your side as always, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright, let's go.
Hold it!
So you say, but how can you be so certain?
There is no need to earl your hands on the desk, monsieur. Surely the reason is obvious, no? Because I have never before seen lips like this.
Nevertheless, there's a clear mark around his neck. And it looks very much like that left behind on the neck of your colleague.
Mon Dieu, with your words, it is like you try to wring my neck.
It does look very much like my neck, though, eh?
Though, this is a birthmark, lad. The biggest lips in London and a neck to die for. Aye, they broke the mold when they made me.
Probably for the best.
For the first time in my life, I feel lucky to have been born with the red hair.
And I thought being Japanese made you stand out. So you maintain that you've never seen this man before?
Oui, c'est car I swear to it by the flames of my hair.
So fierce pride has outgrown the frustration with your hair, has it?
Hold it!
Well, yes, I don't imagine I'll forget these lips either. That's what I'm saying. For some reason it makes me want to eat. How did Fabian call it? An eclair. You know. I've never seen the hair as black as yours before either. Likewise, I've never seen red hair like yours until I came to Britain. See, maybe it's a national trait, huh? Maybe all the people from this man's country have the grand lips.
No, lad, I was born right here on Frenso Street, and I've never left.
Oof, that is a problem, see? So you definitely didn't go to the park that day.
How many times do you want me to have to say it, eh? I'll never leave Frenso Street, alright? I've no interest.
Hold it!
So, you've heard of the Red-Headed League?
You don't get a name like Gossip for nothing, eh? It's my business to know what's going off in town. I told that tasty tidbit a few redheads that came past me. Just between us, I even got sandwich to cough up for it.
Well, he does have a very red nose, if that counts. Who knows?
But as you can see, my ear's not got a tint of red in it. And in any case, Frenso Street's my patch. You won't catch me sliding off to some...
What do you gotta say about that?
Excuse me.
Mr. DeRossi. DeRossi. Whatever.
Oui, can I help you?
Did Mr. Gossip's words now just lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps? 1 second, I'm hydrating. I am now hydrated. And ready to examine.
It was the other day when I was looking for a place near the park, a small house or something.
To be the headquarters of your Red-Headed League, yes?
I visited an housing agent on Live Street, and there I saw him. This man was paying money to the agent.
What? Mr. Gossip? With a housing agent?
Oui, he had some kind of contract in his hand, and they were clearly discussing terms.
But, no, you're mistaken, chum. I've never left Frenso Street, mate, like I said before. You've mistaken me for someone else, someone with the same face.
No, the capo is right. I remember it too. And as we've established, you really stand out. He was paying the man with the banknotes. With notes.
Like I said, that wasn't me.
I was curious why this man with the dirty clothes had so much money. So I looked at the name on the papers. And what name was written? Mr. Gossip? Oh, please be Huge Bone. No, this man, he lies. He tells you that he has no name. But in fact, his name is Huge Bone!
Oh, we fucking did it! Oh.
No.
We fucking... Oh my god! Oh yeah! Fucking got him! I'm a peddler
Camera didn't like that much.
I'm a peddler of tidbits of information, like I said, on Frenso Street, and that's it. I don't much like folk taking about my personal life.
Indeed. And it's not the intention of the court to invade the privacy. Very well, I shall respect your wishes. No. Big object. I'm sorry, my lord, but the defense does object. Because the name just mentioned has a very deep significance to the case. Good gracious, do you similarly object to Sogi? As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings. Well, I never. In what capacity? Huge Bone. The name of the leaseholder of the room. Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. I suggest, sir, you start talking.
Well, alright. I suppose that might be the case,
So your real name is Huge Bone.
Well, just between us, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but there's no finer peddler of tidbits in town. So I happen to be able to afford a grubby little room in a falling down back street townhouse.
You do?
And once every 6 months I go pay the rent to the agent on Lime Street. I remember it now. There were 2 vulgar redheads in there last time.
Eh? If either of us is a vulgar, it's not a me.
Think again, Peppino.
Why didn't you bring this up before?
It's like I told you already. I don't like talking about my personal life. I'm a tidbit peddler as far as everyone else is concerned. No fuss.
Yeah, you know. You will update your testimony to include this most surprising revelation, Mr. Bone.
If I must.
So the leaseholder Scotland Yard has been looking for since the body was discovered. Has been here under our noses all along. I mean, do we present something there? It's gotta be press, right? So, you live in that room, presumably, do you?
No, I don't live there. What do you think? There's no bed, is there? Just a desk.
Then, why would you want to rent it?
Well, I don't think I should have to say, really.
It's the scene of a fucking murder, dude. Then how about the notice board in there? Which was covered from top to bottom in confidential documents only the police should have access to.
Oh, no, that boy's not mine. The inspector must have brought it along. It's only other bits and bobs that belong to me. The desk and the chair were there.
People don't generally carry enormous notice boards. The real question is, why was Gregson killed there, in your room?
Well, obviously, I've not the faintest idea. I mean, it's causing me no end of bother, to be honest.
It seems to me Mr. Gossip, sorry, Mr. Bone, would rather as little is known about his room as possible for some reason. Yes, it does come across that way, and more importantly, knowing that the scene of the crime is actually his room completely changes things. In particular, there's one part of his testimony that's really bothering me now. I'm just gonna keep pressing, because I'm not sure what I meant to present yet. You mean you have no family?
No, not at all. So I spend my days on Fredso Street peddling tidbits to passers-by. Hoping, just between us this is, that eventually someone with lips like mine will come along.
I don't think so.
You may be right.
Anyway, that mark on your neck is just too much of a coincidence.
Well, what's the fella to do there, eh? If you don't believe me, we're at an impasse. And there's nothing I can do but flick me lip.
It looks like I'm not gonna get anywhere here unless I can produce some proof.
You're basically saying I got dressed up and posed as some fancy inspector, aren't you? Well, that's beyond me how you think I could do that.
Hold it!
Maybe you could, say, with a mustache or a beard.
Or perhaps, but if I was gonna stick some facial hair on me to cover up this fine specimen, I'd end up looking like his lordship over there, wouldn't I?
Pardon? I assure you my lips are entirely unremarkable, and I would ask you not to cast such scrutinizing looks in my direction. Ah, sorry. Well, Inspector Gregson did wear a mustache. You're right, he did. So perhaps he was hiding something himself. He could barely have hidden a crumb in that mustache. And anyways, the detective we spoke with had no facial hair at all. See, the capo is right. He was a clean-shaven. It certainly seems beyond the realm of possibility this witness could have disguised himself.
Or it doesn't it is.
What am I presenting here? Do you think it's this photo in relation to kinfolk? He did say he owns the desk as well, didn't he? So if he owns the desk, the chair, presumably he also owned the photo that was on the desk, which is this lady. Right? Does that make sense? I'm so fucking afraid to present any fucking evidence. Oh my god.
Objection.
Yes, okay, thank god. Oof, I was afraid. If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why it is that the space furnishings, among the sparse furnishings, we found this photograph. Oh. I presume, as you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not?
Oh, well...
Mr. Bone, drop your pretense and tell the court exactly who you really are.
I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler. I keep telling you so. You really don't need to bother with me. Please just leave it alone.
As the man says. Leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about this man's life, it has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible that he impersonated Gregson. How can you be so sure? Just look at the man! No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features. But what if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean? Yes, counsel, what do you mean? Well, there's no denying Mr. Bone's lip is very prominent. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip itself is part of an elaborate disguise. Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Huge Bone?
Oh.
Good. Witness, are you still hiding the truth? If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be... Yes, that's right. There's only one person he really could be. My lord, the defense believes it can reveal Mr. Bone's true identity.
No, please, no.
Very well, counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler? Well, wouldn't you know it? It's good old Daily Vigil.
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Daily Vigil.
No!
I don't recall that name, counsel. Who is Mr. Vigil? It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact, this is Mrs. Vigil. What? From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found. But of course, on that night, you were being held captive by the two Red-Headed League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. Because we've been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we needed to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been beside herself with worry waiting for you at the Vigil residence.
Now, just hold on a minute. I have to...
What I'm talking about? Really? Whoops. It's a simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise.
No, please.
Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a washball at once. Mr. DeRossi, you will restrain the witness.
Oui, my lord.
See, my lord.
Yeah, get him, boys. Get him.
Eat his ass. Eat his ass. Eat his ass.
Yeah.
We fucking got him, and I don't have to keep doing the voice. Wow. Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume. Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face. It would appear the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So, witnesses, tell the court, have you seen this man?
I don't believe it, but...
See, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw in the park. Extraordinary. On the day of the Red-Headed League enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson who appeared before DeRossi and DeRossi in the park was you, disguised as the inspector, or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all. Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The chief warder? Then your career had promise. Why, you would quite possibly have the future governor of the prison. What on earth have you been doing peddling little tattles on Fenso Street? Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years. I'm really dreadfully sorry about all of this. Yes, it's true. I'm Daily Vigil. So you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison 10 years ago. So where did Mr. Huge Bone come from? Bone is the other me. It's a name I invented. Well, evidently there is a great deal to under the surface here. I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment at Barclay's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. But times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Frenso Street. But your wife appears to know nothing about this. She still maintains that you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison. I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my failings, which is why I've never told her. I opened an account at the bank under the name of Huge Bone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Frenso Street. The scene of the very crime we're investigating. Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler, and transform myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine. your daily vigil, if you will. I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room, but that explains it. But why on earth didn't you just tell us that in the first place? I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons. And without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them. So instead, you decided to conceal your occupation from them? Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything. Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 pence apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder. Very true. To have kept your family in comfort despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment. That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson. What? Inspector Gregson? What on earth? It was some years after I'd invented bone and begun. That was the camera. Please return to your correct location. Oh, no. Oh, now I've turned that monitor off. Don't do that either. Yeah, there we go. I gotta recalibrate now. Okay. The inspector, that is, recognized me one day. Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance? I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I'd become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family, and from that day forward, he visited me on Frenso Street with increasing regularity. Then one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him. A secret? What was it? I was to impersonate the inspector. What? Impersonate him? We always met in the little room so the inspector could brief me. Visit Orxy's tomorrow and take a statement from the proprietress. It was always something along those lines. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially. A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification. Why? Not only that, but then also you should go out of your way to make sure they know it was Gregson you were impersonating? That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offense. Well, he's dead, so... But why? What was the point of you impersonating him? I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions. Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever. Even if I end up a croaker. In time, he started to bring paper with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him. So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park was really... Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my bone disguise, and then went as instructed to the park armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away. Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case. Shut the fuck up. Explain yourself, Asogi. My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two red-headed League men when they imprisoned the inspector. But no, that can't be. After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park, it was me. Oh, goodness.
Finally, we have clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la Défense, for proving it.
What? Order, order. Indeed, it would appear we have reached a de facto conclusion. These witnesses have no involvement in the murder, as proven somewhat ironically by the defense. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination.
Hold it!
Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma? What question? It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out. 10 years ago? The execution of the professor. I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh. Answer me, man. One moment, counsel. Is this related to the current case? Naturally. It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked. Does the defense concur? Kazuma. You're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual. Poor Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memories of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Genshin Asogi's last moments. I know, I do understand that. But even so... Prosecutor Asogi, do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Gregson's death? I need you to trust me. Please. Very well. Then the defense has no objection. I see. In that case, you will answer the question, witness. The truth is, I remember very little of that time. You've forgotten? I'm sorry to say, yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. But for some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Well, 10 years ago is a long time, but to have forgotten the reason why he left such an important job? Yeah, you're right. And not only that, Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily. Which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. Sorry? The human spirit? I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. But it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed. But I really don't. Kazuma-sama. But if it must be crushed, then so be it, because the truth will not stay buried. It's coming out, one way or another. Right, now I understand. He means to expose the truth at any cost. Perhaps if I point out the contradiction in what Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return. What evidence are we producing? I have no idea how this is going to go, but this is a court of law and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. What am I presenting? This, probably, right? Right? Gotta be this, hasn't it? I'm so afraid to... Oh! I'm so afraid to present any fucking evidence anymore, dude. It has to be this. What else could it possibly be?
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. Well, yes. In other words, you claim to have left the chief of your own volition. Well, yes, of course. Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before? No, I don't. This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment. A dismissal notice. And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil. What? What? It's mine? So you didn't resign from the prison. For some reason, you were dismissed as chief warder. No, there's some mistake, I'm sure. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. That dismissal notice is nonsense. Isn't it? If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been a good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. According to the few remaining records, the final execution you supervised was on 17th of June 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison. The 17th of June. Was that the professor's execution? Professor. As you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings. It does sound familiar. And yet, that execution never took place. The convict, ostensibly executed earlier that day, later re-emerged from his grave. The convict came back to life? In the cemetery in the middle of the night, there was a witness. However, the witness claims that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder, and the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments. Yes. Yes. Seeing as you were in charge of overseeing executions at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head, somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil, I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on the 17th of June 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil? Here it comes. Yes, the whole prison. It was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. The shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane. What? What? Order! Order! Do you mean to say that your memories have returned? My head... It's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, the screams. Oh, my goodness. The papers. There were reports, articles, about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yes, Enoch Drebber. But surely those reports were exaggerated. There were traces at the scene. Traces of what? In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139, blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there. The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering. I've reviewed the police records from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigating team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved. Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom? Yes. Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape. You did what? I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me. One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower. I'm sorry, Daly. This is a serious business, but I can't help you, know. As chief warder, you were responsible for overseeing the execution of a four, eh? Well, seems the fellas at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person. As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew, The Professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape. I'm finished. My life is over. We killed him. Order! Bailiff! Fetch a doctor! Court is adjourned for today with immediate effect. We killed him. Holy shit.
With Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day. Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil.
It's Zeeks, god damn it.
And Gregson.
It's not Zykes, it's Zeeks. Fuck.
All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
Whew. This is getting pretty fucking wild. Still no strong heart, though. God damn it. But we're getting closer. We're moving up the chain.